MIT may have just unveiled one of the most promising solutions to the world's growing water crisis. This device can pull clean, drinkable water from the desert with no electricity, no moving parts, and no human input of any kind. Their creation is just the size of a window, yet it has already been tested in one of the driest places on Earth, producing water in conditions where every other passive system available today fails completely. So how does it work, and could it be the future for a self-sufficient water supply? Let's find out. The idea of pulling water from the air is not new. It is, in fact, among the oldest technologies in human history. Evidence of rainwater harvesting dates to at least 2000 BCE, where ancient settlements carved stone boulders into channels that directed rain into underground cisterns capable of holding millions of gallons of precious water. Roman cities extended this infrastructure across an empire, building aqueducts and collection systems of extraordinary scale and precision. But rain is seasonal, and in the driest regions, where water security is most critical, rainfall is also the least reliable. So communities adapted, turning to the water that existed not in the sky above them, but in the air around them. In the highlands of South America, the Inca wove fabric screens to capture fog rolling in from the Pacific. While in the volcanic island of Lanzarote, farmers arranged fields of volcanic gravel to trap overnight dew, which would drain down toward the roots of vines planted in hollows at the center of each crater-shaped bed. And modern versions of these systems are still in use today. In Morocco, the Darcy Hamad project operates the largest fog harvesting network in the world, using 6,500 square feet of mesh netting to pull over 1,600 gallons of water per day from Atlantic fog, supplying 5 remote Berber villages with no mechanical input of any kind. In Chile's Atacama Desert, researchers redesigned fog net coatings and spacing to increase yields by up to 500%. And in Ethiopia and Cameroon, 30-foot bamboo structures called Warka water towers use natural airflow and engineered materials to harvest rain, fog, and dew simultaneously, yielding up to 26 gallons per day in the right conditions. But all of these systems share the same constraint. They require high ambient humidity to function. When the air is dry, they stop producing water. And the communities with the most severe water stress are almost always in the driest regions. For the last 2 decades, engineers have attempted to close that gap with powered systems. Atmospheric water generators, or AWGs, refrigerate air below its dew point to force condensation, operating like large dehumidifiers. In warm, humid conditions, they can produce 2.5 to 5 gallons of water per day for a single household. But they consume between 0.5 and 1 kilowatt-hour of electricity for every quart of water produced. In regions without reliable grid power, which are precisely the regions most affected by water scarcity, they are not always a viable solution. But in June of 2025, engineers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology published the results of a new device designed specifically to operate in that gap. A passive water harvester that functions in desert air, without electricity, without moving parts, and without any external input beyond the daily cycle of the sun. The device is approximately the size of a standard window, roughly 5.5 square feet in total surface area. From the outside, it resembles a glass enclosure, but inside, suspended at its center, is a sheet of engineered hydrogel molded into a bubble wrap-like pattern of small domes. This increased surface area dramatically increases the amount of vapor the gel can absorb per unit of time. The hydrogel contains lithium chloride, a salt compound with an exceptional affinity for atmospheric moisture. Lithium chloride draws water vapor out of the air at humidity levels as low as 10%, well below the threshold at which fog nets or dew collectors can operate. Previous hydrogel systems using similar salts faced a critical problem. The salt leached into the collected water, making it undrinkable without additional filtration. The MIT team incorporated glycerol into the gel's formulation, which stabilizes the salt content and prevents it from migrating into the water produced. Field testing confirmed that the resulting water contained salt levels well below the threshold for safe drinking water, and its operation involves zero human input. At night, as temperatures drop and relative humidity rises slightly, the hydrogel absorbs moisture from the surrounding air. As the sun rises and the ambient temperature increases, the gel warms, contracts, and releases the trapped moisture as vapor into the enclosed glass chamber. The outer surface of that glass, is coated with a radiative cooling polymer that keeps the glass surface cooler than the air inside the chamber, which causes the released vapor to condense into liquid droplets on the inner surface of the glass. Those droplets run down channels built into the base of the device and are collected as clean, drinkable water. The entire cycle regenerates every 24 hours. It requires no electricity, no batteries, no filters, and no human input beyond the initial placement of the device. The prototype was tested for 1 week in Death Valley, California, in conditions representing some of the lowest ambient humidity found anywhere in North America. Across that testing period, the device operated through relative humidity levels ranging from 21 to 88%, producing between nearly 2 and 5.5 fluid ounces of water per day. On the driest days tested, at humidity levels where every existing passive harvesting system ceases to function, the MIT device continued producing water. It outperformed fog nets, dew collectors, and even some powered AWG systems operating in comparable conditions. The MIT research team estimated that 8 panels of this size could supply the daily drinking water requirements of 1 adult. An even bigger array of panels could supply an entire household's drinking water needs, with no ongoing energy cost of any kind. But passive collection systems, such as these, present a small fraction of the methods used to collect fresh water today. For most of the 20th century, the dominant response to water scarcity was infrastructure: dams, reservoirs, aqueducts, and groundwater pumping. These were engineering solutions designed to move existing surface and subsurface water to where it was needed. They required enormous capital investment, which meant they were only viable in regions where governments or multilateral institutions had the financing and the political will to build them. But in the regions with the most severe water stress, those conditions rarely coexisted. As groundwater aquifers began to deplete, driven in part by agriculture accounting for nearly 70% of global freshwater withdrawals, the focus shifted to desalination and water recycling. Both technologies work, yet they also require significant energy inputs and fixed infrastructure, which again limits their reach to regions with reliable grid power and capital for construction. And the water crisis is an ever-growing problem in every corner of the world. Right now, more than 2 billion people lack regular access to clean, safe drinking water, a crisis that quietly claims over 1 million lives every year. And while arid regions are hit hardest, this isn't a problem limited to the developing world. Today in the US, 46 million people face water insecurity, while across Europe, 40% of the population is affected by water scarcity. And this crisis is only getting worse. By just 2030, experts project that global groundwater demand will exceed supply by 40%. Part of the problem is that once reliable rain cycles are becoming extreme and unpredictable events, but this is mostly a problem of our own making. Yet, in most regions, unsustainable practices are the real issue driving this crisis. Crops and livestock alone account for nearly 70% of global freshwater use, but add in booming populations and water-hungry industries, and we're draining rivers and aquifers faster than nature can refill them. That's why in many places, bottled water becomes the only option, expensive, unsustainable, and out of reach for those who need it most. The MIT device is currently a proof-of-concept prototype, so it is not yet commercially available. But it points to a future where water doesn't need to be pumped, piped, or purchased, just pulled from the sky. And the MIT team is only getting started. Lead author Cheng Lu, now a professor at the National University of Singapore, says the next step is refining the material itself, optimizing it for greater yield, faster moisture release, and potentially cheaper production. They're also working on a multi-panel array, linking several harvesters into a vertical grid. This could scale output from milliliters to liters, turning the system from a survival backup to a reliable, everyday water supply. Next come field tests in diverse climates, from humid jungles to coastal zones to dry plains. These trials will help fine-tune the design, test long-term durability, and determine where and how it can be deployed at scale. But for those looking for an immediate solution for off-grid and rural applications, then passive fog collection systems are still your best bet, providing you live in a compatible climate. They are commercially available and have been field-proven across coastal desert regions for decades. A single 3-foot by 3-foot fog net panel installed in a high-humidity coastal environment can collect between 3/4 of a gallon and 2.5 gallons per day, depending on conditions. These systems require no power, no moving parts, and no maintenance beyond occasional cleaning of the mesh surface. Material costs for a DIY installation are under $100 per panel. If you enjoyed this story and want to learn about solutions for off-grid self-sufficiency, then take a look at our video on the Zeerpot, Nigeria's remarkable off-grid fridge that has literally saved thousands of lives.